Picture this. You're 30 years old. You've just lost your condo to foreclosure. You're absolutely drowning in master's degree debt. And to make matters worse, you just lost $35,000 on a terrible investment. You literally have no choice but to pack up and move back into your middle school bedroom. This isn't just some hypothetical nightmare scenario. This is exactly what happened to financial educator Tiffany Aliche. She hit absolute rock bottom, staring down a negative $300,000 balance sheet. But here is where her story gets incredibly fascinating. By age 37, just 7 years later, she completely flipped her reality, creating a jaw-dropping $1.3 million net worth swing. How in the world did she pull that off? Well, she used a highly specific mathematical strategy. She aggressively compressed her expenses, meaning she lived rent-free with her parents so her housing costs went to zero, and at the exact same time, she skyrocketed her income through a financial education side business that ended up dwarfing her teacher's salary. She basically stacked massive income growth right on top of near-zero expenses. Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're building your holistic, modern financial toolkit. Because what Tiffany's story really teaches us is that wealth isn't just about math and spreadsheets. It's deeply tied to our personal foundations, the human connections we nurture, and honestly, learning how to set some really firm boundaries with modern tech. We're going to give you the complete blueprint. Here's our game plan for today. We'll cover 1. Mastering your housing costs. 2. Pathways to financial wholeness. 3. The money mindset method. 4. Human empathy over AI. And 5. Guarding your AI privacy.
Let's dive right into Section 1, Mastering Your Housing Costs, focusing on moving out strategically.
Now, you might be surprised to learn that right now, nearly a third of Americans ages 18 to 34 are actually living with their parents. And while society sometimes likes to stigmatize that, financially speaking, it's a brilliant strategic move to build up your credit and stash away an emergency fund. Because the hidden costs of moving out are massive. It isn't just paying your first month's rent. You've got security deposits, application fees that run from $25 to $100 a pop, utility setups, renter's insurance, the whole shebang. To pull this off without going broke, you've got to audit your net income, build a solid 3 to 6 month emergency cushion, and get your credit score to at least 620 to even be competitive. And here's a massive pro tip. When you do finally rent, treat it as a stepping stone. Always opt into rent reporting services so your on-time payments actively build the credit you are definitely going to need for future home ownership. Moving right along to Section 2, Pathways to Financial Wholeness. Let's talk about budgeting for real life. Okay, so once you're out on your own, establishing a realistic baseline is your next huge hurdle. You absolutely have to know your Noodle budget. This is a concept from Tiffany Aliche that is all about stripping away everything except the bare essentials. And yes, I mean literal ramen noodles if you have to. Think of it as your financial survival load. Why would you subject yourself to this? So you can aggressively tackle your high-interest debt, specifically anything dragging you down with an interest rate over 8%. When you squeeze your expenses down to just the noodles, you free up the maximum amount of cash to destroy that wealth-draining debt. But let's be real, you can't just live on noodles forever without losing your mind, right? To maintain your sanity while you build long-term wealth, you want to transition over to the 50-30-20 rule. This simply means putting 50% of your income toward needs, 30% toward wants, and 20% towards savings and debt. It's a game changer because it actually gives you permission to spend that 30% on fun stuff, completely guilt-free, because you already know your financial foundation is rock solid. Which brings us nicely to Section 3, the money mindset method. Let's look at human connections and finances. Getting your own financial house in order feels great, but merging those finances with a partner, that brings up some intense psychological hurdles. A fascinating study over in Yumplung Hamlet discovered that spouses regularly avoid conflict by literally hiding their expenses from each other. Just think about that for a second. The sheer fear of having an argument actually drives partners to conceal their reality, and that actively destroys the mutual trust you absolutely have to have for long-term household stability. But there's good news here. That exact same study proved this is totally fixable. When those couples were guided through structured interventions that focused on transparency, the results were incredible. They dramatically increased their openness and actually started making collaborative, unified decisions about their household budgets together. It really just takes a structured approach. And you can use that exact kind of structure in your own home with the M.O.N.E.Y framework. First, make conversations comfortable by setting a calm vibe. Then, tackle issues one by one so nobody gets overwhelmed. Nurture shared goals, evaluate practical solutions, and always say yes to compassion. Oh, and here is a fantastic tip. Establish a unique code word with your partner. If things start getting too heated, either of you can drop the code word to hit pause, take a breather, and come back when cooler heads prevail.
All right, let's zoom out for section 4, human empathy over AI and the limits of automation.
So we're shifting from the living room to the macroeconomy now. What actually happens when massive institutions try to strip human empathy out of finance using AI? Well, a really fascinating 2025 Yale study looked at data from over 300 debt collection firms, and the results were pretty stunning. Human agents completely outperformed the automated AI bots. We're talking 23% higher recovery rates and 34% more responses from debtors just by using real humans. It turns out, resolving financial trouble relies heavily on human connection. Sure, AI promises lower costs and super fast efficiency, but it completely misses the mark on emotional intelligence. It just can't identify a vulnerable person in distress. And the risks of handing this over to machines are huge. In 2024, an AI debt collector went rogue and caused a legal breach that cost a European fintech firm a massive €2.5 million fine. Ouch. You simply cannot automate trust, empathy, or nuance. And that leads us to our final section, number 5, guarding your AI privacy and setting tech boundaries. So, if massive banks with deep pockets are messing up financial AI, how on earth do you protect your personal data when you use something like ChatGPT every day? The golden rule you need to memorize is this: treat AI like a super intelligent stranger. Think about it. You wouldn't walk up to a random stranger on Reddit and hand over your bank login or your social security number, right? No way. You have to establish those exact same ironclad boundaries with conversational AI, or you risk a catastrophic data leak. You need to lock down your digital footprint, and here are 3 simple rules to do it. 1. Never share anything you wouldn't gladly post on a public forum. 2. Go into your settings right now and turn off data sharing and location tracking so your questions aren't being used to train some future bot. And 3. If you absolutely have to discuss something sensitive, always use temporary chats. Keep your private life private. By mastering your Noodle budget, communicating openly with your partner, and setting firm, unyielding boundaries with technology, you are the one taking back control, because ultimately wealth is really about autonomy. So I want to leave you with a provocative question to chew on today. As the whole world rushes toward automation, who is really driving your financial future, you or the algorithm? Take the wheel, and I'll see you in the next explainer.